Hi everybody. This is Miley Martin from Student Activities at Fresno City College with an FCC spotlight for Pride Month. Joining me today is Arien Reed, a queer, trans, invisibly disabled man who has worked in the Disabled Students Program as a budget technician for the past 5 years. So please welcome Arien. Hi, so good to see you.
Hi. So yeah, my name is Arien. My pronouns are he, him, his, and
Thank
it's great to be here today.
Thank you, Arien, for joining us today. So, as a advocate for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer rights, or LGBTQ equity and awareness, can you share a little bit about yourself and how you promote inclusion in the community?
Sure. So I'll start by saying a little bit about myself. I am a man who was born female. In other words, I'm a transgender man. And I just always felt strongly inside since I was a kid that I was male, even though I wasn't really allowed to express myself that way. I didn't even know what the T in LGBTQ stood for until I started working here at the college. So my career here at the college really changed my life. I'm so grateful to have been able to work for Fresno City College for the 5 years that I've been here. It wasn't until I took a safe space ally training by Jerry Thurston, which I now actually present, and I've kind of taken over from him. But back in the day, years ago, I took that training from him, and that's when I learned about things like gender identity versus biological sex and gender expression and things like that. And so it was during that training that I actually figured out that I was trans, and that's what was going on with me my whole life. So that's kind of a little story about me. And I actually, I came out. I actually kind of knew I was trans for a few years, but I came out a couple years ago. I actually came out to my department, like a few people basically, in May, but then it was actually on Pride Day, Fresno Pride Day of 2019 that I came out to everyone publicly on social media, just all at once. So Pride Day has a lot of meaning for me, and Pride Month in general has a lot of meaning for me personally. And since then, I've had the opportunity to transition on campus publicly in front of everyone, whether that was what I wanted or not. That's just kind of how things go. Some trans people like to kind of disappear or move away or something during transition so that they, can kind of just transition real swiftly over to their correct gender identity. And sometimes things are a little easier that way, but I had the opportunity to just transition in front of everyone and also to transition privately here at home during COVID, because COVID happened about 9 months into my hormonal transition. So I've had kind of both experiences where I kind of transitioned in private. I'm going to come back to campus and a lot of people are going to think I look and sound totally different. But I also got to transition on campus in person, and kind of go through the awkward social transition of changing over which restroom I use and things like that. So thankfully that whole experience really taught me a lot about our campus and our campus's cultural climate in regards to trans people, both people who do not transition or haven't transitioned yet, and also people who have transitioned or are in various stages of it. So it's been a big learning experience, both in positive and negative ways. And I've taken a lot of that and that I've learned. And that's really where things like some of my trainings, that's where a lot of my information came from. Some of my etiquette about trans people came from was that experience. And then in regards to what I've been doing here on campus, the Elevate the Student Voice, I helped found the ASFA, which stands for the Allied Staff and Faculty Association. We are an organization that supports LGBTQ staff, faculty, and students across the campus. And I've been also serving as the president of that organization since its inception. I was recently voted back on again for another 2-year term. And we try to do a lot to elevate the student voices. For instance, during the times when the LGBTQ Spectrum Club was active. We've assisted and partnered with them during events like Club Rush, just trying to provide free giveaways to anyone who had signed up for the student club, and to kind of help bolster their numbers and volunteer participation. And during times when they've been inactive, like right now, we've also tried to make the student voice heard through things like the Trans Voices panel that we had back in November, also through things like Lesbian Visibility Day, Trans Visibility Day, on which days we try to feature social media stories about students. For instance, their picture, putting up at least one picture of them and saying a little bit about them. They have to volunteer themselves, and then we use the information that they give us to feature them so that they can be visible, to really help humanize LGBTQ people. Because historically, we've always been dehumanized when it comes to public portrayals of us, for instance, in movies and talk shows, etc. And then we've also tried to, let's see, we also did the LGBTQ rainbow graduation celebration. We just did our first one this year. That was really exciting. And we did a similar thing where we asked people to provide pictures of them, not necessarily graduation style photos, but just photos that represent their true selves, and also a little story about themselves so that we can see them as a person and celebrate them for who they are, authentically.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Wow, you've shared a lot of information. You've kind of covered all my questions. And I guess Pride Month, I mean, a lot has happened for you. I didn't realize so much was happening in your life. This is sort of like your birthday month, if you will, like a new beginning, a rebirth. It's very exciting. So you've kind of shared what this month means to you personally. And you shared also how you promote inclusion on campus and within the community. And I know you've been very involved in so many ways. You mentioned that you are now doing the safe space training here on campus. And can you share some of the main points that your training touches on, that if faculty or staff or students haven't taken that training, what are some of the main points that the safe space training does touch on?
Oh, yeah, sure. So the safe space training, it touches on a lot of things. It's really kind of a big overview. Um, and so what I can say for that one is it's kind of like a 101. So it's very basic, and we cover a lot of stuff in that one training. And so that training covers sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, biological sex. It covers learning, it covers competency of our culture, so we kind of talk a little bit about, what it's like to be us, basically. But its primary concern is addressing homophobia, transphobia, biphobia, teaching people what those things are, how to address them when they happen, and in regards to microaggressions, like in the classroom or in the office, or in the hallway, outside one of those places, et cetera, here on campus. And then we also have the Trans Ally training, which is a new training. And it's best taken as a supplement to the safe space training, because that one it takes what you've learned and it builds on it. And specifically in regards to trans people, because a lot of people don't really know much about us. And I learned that firsthand, being trans here on campus, and coming out and, changing which restroom I use and stuff. I started experiencing, basically some transphobia from people who weren't really trying to be transphobic. They were just ignorant and they just didn't know. I think that's where a lot of things like homophobia and transphobia come from, is ignorance. So the whole point of these presentations is to go into depth on who we are, and therefore how to be respectful to us. And so the Trans Ally training really goes into depth about gender identity, gender expression, biological sex. It talks about, it tries to open up people up to understanding their cisgender privilege, to understanding any sort of unconscious heteronormative bias, which pretty much everyone has, because that's what our society is. That's how we were raised, how we were socially conditioned to be. So it really helps the training is really geared towards helping people see that in themselves, so that they can keep that in mind as they interact with us, that this is the kind of viewpoint that they're coming from, but that isn't the only kind of viewpoint in the world. And it also teaches people how to address transphobic and heterosexist microaggressions in the workplace and in the classroom, between students, between staff, etc. To really try to help us understand our own unconscious or conscious LGBTQ phobias and biases, and to start working towards overcoming them and making the campus a safer and more inclusive space.
So I'm wondering, as the president of Allied Staff and Faculty, did your group have any participation in the district recognizing LGBTQ rights and flying the pride flag, which was just raised on Friday? Were you a part of that conversation?
I was a part of that conversation. About a week before the raising of the pride flag, they did reach out to me with the resolution. I provided some feedback. And then while I was on my vacation all last week, that's when I was notified that it was being raised. And unfortunately, I was already on vacation, so I wasn't able to come back in time for that. But that was a really historic moment. And we didn't start it. That was actually started by the college. That was the college's initiative. But we, of course, really supported it. I provided all the feedback that I could. And yeah, it was really exciting. But what I've actually been focusing on lately I've been working on an LGBTQ climate survey for our students so that they can really voice their experiences here on campus and their concerns. And also so they can let us know what they think should be our priority, because there's a lot of things that we need to do here on campus to make our campus inclusive and safe and welcoming to LGBTQ students. And we have limited funds, resources, and people to do that. So I'm making a survey to find out, what they really want, what they feel is their priority, and also just, letting us know what their experience is on campus so that we can keep track of that over time and find out, okay, our campus is very unsafe, but is it getting safer as we do these things, or do we need to start focusing on doing other things? So kind of let us know where to focus our efforts.
Well, that's awesome. In closing, is there anything else you would like to see happen to support LGBTQ interests and concerns on campus? I know you're doing your survey, but you personally, are you envisioning other things that you'd like to see happen?
Oh yeah, I've been working on a couple proposals. You may have heard of them. I have been working on the all-gender restroom proposal. I've been asking for more all-gender restrooms on campus. And as a trans person, that for me personally, that's been a huge deal. Is not feeling comfortable going to the restroom on campus has been a kind of a big deal for me. And I know it's a big deal for our students. I do have the privilege of being staff. There is an all-gender restroom that I have a key to that our students wouldn't have a key to. So I do have that kind of privilege, but it's still a struggle for me too when I go to other buildings where I don't have keys to their restrooms. It's been kind of a big deal for me to have to pick a male or female restroom when I didn't look male or female. So that's been a huge thing on my plate is trying to push that proposal through and get restrooms on our campus. I've also been advocating for privacy curtains in the gym because our gym didn't have any sort of shower curtains or anything. It was very, very not private at all. So I've been working on trying to advocate that be made private as well, for similar reasons, because as someone who works out a lot at a local gym here in Fresno, I would not be able to, participate in exercise if showering in front of everyone naked was my only option. So that's something I've been working on. I've also been working on a preferred name I'm calling it chosen name policy and correct pronouns policy to try to correct some of the cultural microaggressions that sometimes happen with our trans students when they're trying to interact with staff, and staff are using the wrong name and pronouns because they don't know about them. So we're trying to figure out a way of streamlining that kind of information sharing and also creating a policy to back the use of that as well. And that's just a few of the things I've been working on.
Okay, you got a lot going on, and I have learned a lot in this interview because I'm learning, constantly learning, and there's so much happening. And again, it is education. It is an interview like this to understand more and to, yeah, it's all about being inclusive and being supportive. And I think what you've done as a leader on campus is amazing. So Arien, I just want to thank you for taking the time to share with me in this interview to inform faculty, students, staff, and the community on the challenges and the triumphs that you go through on a daily basis. So thank you very much. FCC
Thank
Spotlight,
you.
thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.